this is going to be recorded, as I said. And so, yeah, now I believe I will pass it over to Inez.
All right, thanks, Erica. Hi, everyone. My name is Inez. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I am going to be facilitating the panel with our core members here. I am the service year advisor for City Year Chicago. I also served in Chicago for 2 years. And I'm excited to introduce these people to you. I'm going to actually let them introduce themselves. So by order on the screen, if you all want to come off mute and just introduce yourself, kind of your pronouns and where you're sitting, and then we'll get started.
Hi everyone, I'm Cassie. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am a first-year AmeriCorps member at City Year Chicago, and I'm also a confirmed team leader for next year.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm currently a service leader serving in Denver, which just means I'm in my 2nd year of service and am leading a team through their 1st year of service as well in Denver.
Hi everyone, my name is Ava. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a first-year AmeriCorps member serving at Ascot Avenue Elementary in Los Angeles. I also want to give you guys a heads up. My school is about to let out for the day, so there's going to be some background noise in the next few minutes. I apologize.
Hey everyone, my name is Jared. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a first-year AmeriCorps member serving at Menlo Elementary School in Los Angeles.
All right, thanks everyone for sharing. If we can go to, oh, just kidding. We can unshare and then we'll spotlight you all so that we can see you. So give us a second to do that. Thanks, Hala. While she's doing that, we'll start on some of these questions. So first question, what drew you to City Year?
I can go ahead and answer this one. I love this question. What drew me to City Year was I did a lot of research. I don't know if you guys like go on YouTube, look up City Year Chicago. I love the videos, but what drew me to City Year were our core values, values like serving for a cause greater than yourself and equity. Those are things that are really important to me. So I was really drawn to City Year because I really aligned with our values.
I can go next. Oh, here, you go first, Hannah. I'll go after you.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say, like, along with the values, I think it's just a really great opportunity for you to like dip your toes into the world of education. And that was kind of why I chose to come to City Year, just knowing like I love working with kids. I love working in like a school academic setting, but not knowing exactly like what I want to do with my future and what's next for me. So I think being able to experience it firsthand and have all of those different experiences with the kids, like academic and SEL, it really gives like a full picture and like what parts give you joy and what parts are maybe draining to you and what do you want to take into the future. You get like the whole picture. So that's something that I really wanted to experience.
Yeah, my answer is super similar to Hannah. One thing that really drew me to City Year was, well, first I knew I wanted to do something in the education field for my gap year, but why I wanted to serve with City Year in particular is because you have both in the classroom experience with a partner teacher who you're working with throughout the school day, but then you also get to lead an after school program, at least in City Year Los Angeles. So I had that experience of both learning and working and leading a classroom. And again, I apologize for any background noise. My school literally just got
out. Prior to City Year, I was actually a pre-med student, and I wanted to do something during my gap year before medical school that was kind of different. Didn't really want to do the traditional research or work in a hospital, and I always really liked working with kids. And I was actually referred to through City Year from a friend. And kind of like Cassie mentioned, and other people as well, just some of the core values really aligned with me. And yeah, it got me really excited to work with City Year.
Nice. All right. So kind of along those same lines, what factors did you consider before accepting your invitation? So kind of along like what made you say yes? Why City Year instead of the other jobs or other programs that were out there?
I think the most important factor for me was location. So I serve in Los Angeles, and I chose to serve in Los Angeles just because that's where I had the strongest support network of, like relatives, friends, that sort of thing. What else did I consider? I considered, cost of living with the stipend, how I'd be able to afford rent, that sort of thing, be able to have fun stuff. And yeah, my career priorities, like I already said, that was a big factor.
I agree. I also wanted to serve in Los Angeles since I was originally from here before college. And I actually met with a recruiter multiple times to ask a bunch of questions, basically trying to get as much info as I could about City Year, making sure that I had an informed decision before I joined. So that support network also really helped push me towards accepting my job here.
I think for me, a big thing is like knowing that I'm going to go to grad school after this. Eventually, my undergrad degree was in psychology. So the natural next step is grad school, unfortunately. So I think since I've done 2 years, I get 2 Siegel Education Awards that I'll get at the end of my 2 years of service. And I think that's been a really big pull for me to then be able to use towards grad school when it's time for me to do that.
I'll add something into unlike it sounds like all the other panelists, I joined right after high school. So location, and I moved also, I relocated. So I'm originally from New Hampshire, and I moved to, I serve with City or Chicago now, and a big thing for me that I had to consider was like the support that I'd be offered in making that transition, especially right out of high school. I've lived with my parents like up to this point. So just always being in constant contact with Ines and just making sure that, yes, we're gonna help find you roommates. Yes, you're gonna have a place to live. Like it's gonna be okay. That was a big thing for me.
Nice. And continue to add questions in the chat as you're going through. I'll stop and pause and ask some of those. I see people are responding already, but I will touch on those. So keep asking your questions in the chat. We will get to them. But I am going to move on to one more. Let's talk about day-to-day. What are some of your day-to-day challenges? What are some of the great parts about working day-to-day? What kind of supports do you lean into from your team, manager, et cetera?
So I serve in two fifth grade classrooms at an elementary school, and we're in the month of May now. And so the fifth graders are feeling roller coaster emotions before they transition to middle school. So we're just having a lot of really big behaviors all the time. And so I would say that's like my most frequent day-to-day thing that arises that I kind of have to like think through and deal with and process afterwards are just outbursts or behaviors. And I definitely lean on my fellow team members and my impact manager, like to just kind of talk through things after they happen and be like, am I crazy? Like, what just happened? Help me process this. And so I think a lot of it is just meeting the students where they are and trying to figure out how to help them the best and working through like, okay, this happened. How can I reapproach this scenario so we have like a positive outcome?
I guess for me, my day-to-day, what I really look forward to, so in the Los Angeles location, we have an after-school program called Extended Learning Time, abbreviated as ELT. And that's a really awesome space because you have these different pods based off groups. So I'm a sixth grade city year, I'm in a sixth grade class, so we have a sixth grade pod. So me and the other city year member who is in a different sixth grade class, we run this pod together and we get to design activities, help with homework, help just have fun with the kids outside of the classroom, but also outside of the yard too, because on the yard, the kids just like to mess around and have fun. But in the classroom, or at least in ELT, we get to really support them and plan fun activities that they really enjoy. And then day-to-day struggles, I mean, to be honest, it kind of changes every day. You kind of just got to be flexible and adaptable, I think, with this job, and know that things are going to get thrown at you. But what is nice is we have such a strong support system with our other city members, with our program manager, with our team leader, with the school administration. There's so many people to help you solve whatever problems might come your way. So although it's hard to like predict exactly what's going to happen, you always have someone to go to if you need help.
Yeah, I agree with Jared. I think probably the best or like the daily joys that really come with working with City Year is building relationships with students and kind of getting to know them outside of a classroom setting. And yeah, especially so close to the end of the year, it's really awesome to look back and feel kind of the joy of all the progress you've made. On the flip side, I would say the hardest part of my day is usually, when I try a new strategy for helping a student and it doesn't work, and that happens all the time. Like sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes a concept is just not clicking with a student and you need to try again with a new idea. But I honestly kind of like that challenge of finding what works, what's best for this student, kind of unlocking that puzzle. And the support system, I mean, like everyone said, the City Year itself provides a great support network of your fellow team members. Like I know we have like a team group chat where we're constantly talking about what's going on, or, can somebody help with this, or what do I do in this scenario? So that's really helpful. Beyond that, there's your program manager who's in the school with you on the day-to-day basis, kind of resolving school-based issues, and then kind of like higher up people at City or at your location that you can reach out to with any kind of more specific issues. I think you're on mute, Inez.
Well, thank you. I want to touch on Claire's question, which I think is a great question. With the stipend, how do you budget? How do you pay for rent and other things, throughout your year?
The biggest thing for me that I've learned since I started working with City Year is take advantage of the benefit that they give you, because you really kind of have to. I know in Chicago, like I have an EBT card, so like I don't have to pay, I get my groceries paid for in that way. And like we get transportation passes with Hannah. And so those, even just the little things really like add up, because those are going to be your big expenses, your rent, your food, and getting where you need to go. And City Year does a really good job at like making sure that we can do this, but it's also, I feel like, part of giving a year of service. Like you all know what I'm, Ines, you're making me laugh, but yeah, I think it's part of the experience, but also it's not, like we're all doing it, like we're all okay. But just taking advantage of those benefits is really important.
I agree. I have an EBT card that pays for my food, which is awesome. The City Year helped connect me with at the beginning of the year. Public transport, I don't drive or anything. And contrary to popular belief, LA public transport is pretty good. But in all transparency, I think the biggest reason why I was able to make it work on the stipend is because I had 4 years of job savings from high school that I used to pay my rent. Because it, like, especially Los Angeles is a super high cost of living area. So having those savings allows me to, not worry about where's my next rent check going to come from. And without them, I would not be able to participate in City Year.
For me, I was very fortunate because I don't have to pay for rent since I'm originally from Los Angeles, but I definitely have team members who do have to pay for rent. And there's plenty of apps you can either get on your phone or on your computer that really help you budget your money and keep track of where you're spending things. It's totally manageable, but you do need to be a lot more conscious of how you're spending your money because you can't be spending all your stipend in the first week you get it because you have another week until you get the next one. So I think just being a little bit, as I said, more conscious and keeping track of what you're spending on to keep you on pace can really help make sure you're not overspending. But overall, like everyone's already mentioned, there's a ton of benefits that do help you because the stipend, quite honestly, isn't a lot. So you do have to really manage your money and make sure you're spending correctly.
Yeah, I would just add, I suggest a spreadsheet. I'm a big Excel fan, and I've never run into any financial problems, and I haven't used any of my savings.
Nice. We're going to touch on benefits as well at the end, so stick around. The stipend is a little different depending on the site, so make sure you talk to your advisor about what the stipend is in your state. But we will touch on some of those. Continue to ask questions in the chat, throw them in there. I have, I think, one more or two more from my list, but keep asking your questions in the chat. All right, so let's talk a little bit about self-care. Was there a pivotal moment or a time where you realized that you needed to think more intentionally about your self-care practice, and what steps or what are some things that you do to practice self-care?
For me, it's been an interesting 2 years of service because I started during like kind of the peak of COVID. And so my first year was half virtual. And so pretty much all of our mental health were just kind of like crazy. And because we were staring at our computers trying to get elementary and middle schoolers to talk to us on Zoom all day. So I was lucky enough coming into this year that I felt like I had already hit my like low point in my year of service last year and came in wanting to take a lot of like preventative measures. And I think that that's been really helpful. So like meal prepping is something that I like put a lot of focus into because if that's something I don't think about, then I will just eat either really gross food or just like skip a meal, overwork myself. Like that's something that I know I need to focus on. And so I put emphasis in that like every weekend and just like trying to move my body. It's really hard after a 10-hour day to like go home and then make yourself like get out and about. But I think prioritizing that is really important. And then also just like preventative mental health days. Like it's much better to be like, okay, I'm starting to feel like I'm going down. I need to schedule a day off to take care of myself than it is to be at school and have a mental breakdown and like have to go home early. So I think it's just important to take care of yourself before things get bad, because that's kind of what happened to me last year and it was just a mess.
Yeah, so I think the biggest self-care thing I do, it's actually related to EBT in Los Angeles. Farmers markets will match up to $20 worth of EBT per week every Sunday. They're matching $20 for me, you know, and that allows me to have like fresh, delicious, like organic food. It's so easy, you know, it doesn't even have to be complicated. Like I just buy like salad mixes there, or apples. I don't have to make anything, but it's still healthy and it's still super easy. Another thing I do for self-care is once the service day ends, I'm not thinking about service anymore. Setting that really clear boundary, I think, is so important. You know, I don't think about my students once I get on the bus and go home, even though it's tempting because, you know, like you want to help them, but, you know, you can't pour from an empty glass is the saying that, you know, we talk about in, at least in my team.
Yeah, to kind of, sorry, all the kids are coming back from lunch right now. But kind of piggyback off of that, our program manager really stresses, like on the weekend, do not think about City Year. Like your weekends truly are totally free. You never have any work. anything you need to do for City Year, you can get done when you get back on Monday. Like on my weekends, I'm fully relaxing, hanging out with friends, going to the beach, whatever I want to do that just like allows me to help de-stress and manage what can be sometimes a stressful job. And then also during the week too, if I really need to take days off, I'm able to do so, and that's really helpful as well when needed.
Nice. All right. I see a question in the chat about placement, school placement. I know that happens differently in every site. So if you know how placement happens, you can answer that part of the question. But if not, I will answer it. But the second part of that question, in general, what did the beginning look like for you all? How did that, start of year kind of look for you all? Training, any of that?
I'm not sure. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
I'm not sure how placement happens in Los Angeles. All I know is I requested to be in an elementary school, and I'm in an elementary school. In terms of the start of year, I remember we had about a month of training virtually. I don't know, maybe it'll be in person this year, but virtually to kind of prep us for being in the classroom, going over different strategies we can use, what to expect in the communities, that sort of thing. We also got to visit the school before school started to meet with the different teachers and administrators that we'd be working with, and obviously to meet your team in person. And we continue having these regular trainings throughout the year, which I found really helpful.
So I relocated, like I said before, and so what that all looked like for me, I had actually never even visited Chicago before I moved here. I didn't see the apartment first or anything. I looked at the pictures and said, okay, looks good. But so I moved here, I believe I moved in August 1st. That would make sense. And then a week or two later, I started training. So it was really nice to be in the city a little bit before our virtual training started. But it wasn't like I didn't have to be here right after I graduated high school, or I still took my summer and then moved at the end of July.
I think I know how it generally happens in Denver. We got here and then during training filled out a survey. And I think they took into account like where your housing is, what languages you speak is definitely important. Denver is very bilingual. And so if you speak Spanish, you might get placed in a different school because there are bilingual schools. And then also what grade level you want to work with. So it's like how far your commute would be if you have access to transportation, things like that, and then language and grade level essentially. And yeah, same with us. Our training started in Denver in the end, like the last week of July, and it's about 3 weeks of whole core training, and then it splits a little bit more into either like region within your city or going into the school buildings for the last like 2 weeks before the school year starts. So it's like a month or 5-ish weeks of training that's split up between either being with the whole core or like just your team or being at your school eventually.
So I'm also serving in LA, so I had the same experience where I filled out the survey and then got assigned to Menlo. And then this might be team specific, but how I got assigned with 6th grade is that I ranked which of the grades I wanted to work with most. And then our program manager, I think, just kind of ended up matching people with grades by kind of how you rated them. So you don't necessarily have 100% say on where you're going to be located or what grade you're going to be with, but you do get to put your preferences, and everyone works their best to try to give you kind of your top or preference that you prefer.
Thanks, and thank you all for sharing that. And just to chime in most of our sites, that is the process for placement, kind of what Jared and Hannah were talking about. There's a survey, it asks a bunch of questions around where you live, what grade level you prefer to work with, some questions around languages that you speak, so we can use that, just some of your demographic info. There's a lot of different questions. Each site is a little bit different. but you don't get your placement, correct me if I'm wrong, any SYAs, you don't get your placement right away, like as soon as you confirm. This usually happens as you get closer to the start date. In Chicago, it happens after, like in your first week of training, but you take the survey, and then we use that survey and that information to place you in the best school for you and the best fit for the school. Cool. Just trying to check to see if I missed any other questions in there. I have one more that I will ask, and then again, feel free to drop any other questions in the chat. What's been the best part of your experience this far this year?
I want to answer this because I had like a really great moment today. Seeing the growth in, and City Year is about a lot more than just the students' academics, but seeing the growth. I work in a 3rd grade classroom. Because COVID delayed them so far, they came into the year pretty much not being able to read at all. And today more than half the class read like a whole sentence. So seeing things like that, and it might be hard, it's like if you were there, you'd know what I mean, but that is my favorite part. Every week, just seeing, oh, you can do this new thing, let me write that down, and looking back at what they could do at the beginning of the year and what they still had to learn. It's just really cool to just watch young people grow.
Yeah, I agree. I have a feeling all 4 of us might say pretty similar things here. But for me, for sure, the most rewarding part is the relationships you build, specifically with the students. I mean, both academically and social, emotionally, getting to know them really well and seeing their progress is awesome because we have different like levels in terms of competency. So we have like red, green, or red, yellow, green, blue. And a lot of my students at the beginning of the year were in the red level, which is like not competent in terms of standardized scoring. I'm not exactly sure how they score it. And over the year, a lot of them are now in the yellow and the green. And it's just really awesome to see their improvement, specifically to my kids who are in my after school program and seeing that the work we're doing with them really is making a difference. Is really, really rewarding. And yeah, just getting to know them also as people is awesome. I mean, make me laugh every day. And a huge reason why I love this job.
Yeah, definitely the students' growth, of course, is the biggest thing for me. I have one student who's on my English focus list. So focus list is 5 students. You have 5 in English, or 6 in English, 5 in math, who you work with specifically in those core subjects. So one of my English focus list students won the spelling bee. I mean, come on, that is so cool that happened. And so I was super proud for him. That definitely has been a highlight. On the more day-to-day, I'm going to pan my computer so you can see our art wall. It's like right there. Oh, that away. Yeah, students give you a lot of art. It's super fun to keep. It's an easy souvenir, and it's really cute.
Yeah, mine is maybe a little redundant, but definitely the relationships with the students. I've been lucky enough to stay with I got to loop with my class. So I've been with the same students for 2 years now, and I'm actually going to have a mental breakdown on their continuation day, which is in less than a month. But I'm just like so proud of them, and it gives me so much joy like seeing them every day. And I think especially the time spent with them outside of the classroom is my favorite. Like just the things they'll like run up to you and say, and you're like, why did you want me to specifically know that information? I don't know, but thank you so much for sharing. And it's like, I don't know, they just give you so many little like heart sparkles and moments of joy throughout each day that make it like way beyond worth it. And I feel so lucky to have been able to work with them for the last 2 years. And yeah, it's just an amazing experience.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. Are there any last minute questions in the chat? You can drop them in there. If not, we'll go on to talk about the benefits. And then if you have any questions from there, we can continue. But while we still have the panelists, I'll wait like another minute or 2 to see if any other questions pop up. yes, this information is online. It should also be in your portal when you click through to your offer. But your service year advisors can also send you this information. Yeah. But anyhow, thank you panelists for being here and for answering questions. We really appreciate hearing your experience. If you want to stay on, you can. If you have to hop, that's totally fine too. I'm going to go over the benefits really quickly and then leave some space for questions. And then we have a little survey that we'd love for you all to take at the very end. So we kind of mentioned some of these benefits. The stipend ranges from $890 this next year to $1122, depending on what city you're in. So just ask your service year advisor what that stipend is for your city. It varies. There's also the CY Education Award, which is a little more than $6,000 this next year. You get that at the end of the year for completing your service year. If you do a second year, you'll get another education award, like one of our panelists was mentioning. There's also free health, vision, and dental. It doesn't come out of your check like a paycheck or like when you're working for a salary job. This is just free benefit for you. You also have free access to different counseling services like Talkspace. In Chicago, we have Adler, and there may be some other services depending on your city, but you will have a couple counseling services that you can reach out to for free. Many of our sites have a transportation pass that you either can get automatically or you have some extra service hours that you do for it. Like in Chicago, you have to do a few additional hours of service a month, like 2 hours a month or every other month. But we reach out to you and let you know what those hours are, and then you get the travel pass in return. And that's something that you can use unlimited for the entire year. There's lots of professional development and career partnerships, university partnerships, and tuition discounts. If you want to see any of these, you can go to alumni.cityyear.org and you can see the various career partners, university partners, and tuition discounts. If you have federal loans from school, from college, you can forbear those during service. And then you also get time off, like similar to school time off. You'll get like all the school holidays off. You have winter break, so you may have like 2 weeks off during that. You have spring break, you have some days off around there, and then all of the other like major holidays, President's Day, Veterans Day, stuff like that. And then you also have 12 personal days that you can use throughout your year for sick time or days off or any of that. And then there's also a childcare assistance if you need that. Any questions about these benefits? There's one more that's not on here, the EBT that we talked about. So food stamps, you can get a certain amount every month. I know in Chicago, it's like up to $200 a month that you can get for food. You don't have to spend your stipend on that. So that's a definite extra benefit. And I know that all the sites you're eligible for that as well. If you don't have any questions now, but you have questions later, here are the emails of the service year advisors by site. So you can jot down our name or email. You probably have already received an email from us. So reach out to any of these here with any of your other questions, and we are here to answer those questions. That's our job, is to just help you make an informed decision. And then before you go, we're going to drop this link in the chat. It's there already, but we'll drop it again. We'd love for you to just take the survey and let us know if this was helpful. It's a really quick survey, so we will, Brenna, if you could drop that again, that would be great. We'll stay on a little bit longer to see if anyone has any questions. But otherwise, thank you all for joining us. And I hope that this was really helpful, and I hope that you all accept.